Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to 5 Minutes. I'm your Rebel and host Shorty. And today's the second Behemoth comic book this week we're reviewing. And I was delayed, originally supposed to be out a couple of weeks back, but until my knuckles bleed. With a title like that, it's very hard to not be reminded of Frank Miller. One of my all-time favourite lines from any comic book everywhere is from Frank Miller's That You Bastard. After a while, I realised all I'm doing is pounding wet bone fragments into bloody floorboards, so I stop. Brilliant line. Instantly made me think of that when I saw Until My Knuckles Bleed. Just something about it kicked something in my head to go, yeah, this is going to remind you of Frank Miller. And then you open up and see that first page. And it's Frank Miller meets Rob Liefeld. And I have criticised Rob Liefeld in the past, repeatedly, because he's terrible. And when I say that this is a Rob Liefeldian style artwork, I don't want anyone to think that I'm criticising this artist for doing that. There's a very different reason here. Rob Liefeld is bad at what he does. This is a very good take on Rob Liefeld. It is over the top with posing, over the top with weaponry, with the amount of pouches on people's costumes, terrible musculature and body form, ridiculous round-the-face accoutrements without actually being masks or helmets. It is ridiculous and over the top. And it's done on purpose. And Frank Miller's artwork, although I love him dearly as an artist, even as a terrible human being at times, his art has that same kind of thing. It is all over the top. It is ridiculous. It is, what do they say here? It was the best of times. It was the most extreme of times, as they're talking about the 90s. Yes, this is exactly what they're going for. None of this by Victor Santos is done lazily or done because it's hacky or done because he lacks ability to do better. He does this brilliantly. And because of that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the artwork, because it's not all this style of artwork. It runs for a couple of pages as a basically flashback. I'm trying to find a page of artwork to show you now which doesn't have boobs on it. I think that's close enough. It actually is far more modern throughout the most of it, with excellent colouring in a way that I really like. It reminds me of Danny, where there's sometimes just an absolute lack of external line work, external linking, and they just trust the colouring to show you shading and differentiation. Really, really good, and I absolutely love the art style. Also, reminds me of Michael Avon Owing, who is an artist I'm not as much of a fan of, but his stuff kind of sets, usually from what I've seen at least, kind of always comes across to me as superheroes that exist in a real world, and we're looking at the real world. That's the same kind of style we're getting here. These are real people. There's a superheroic nature to the world, a kind of othering that shows this massive scale that is possible. And for the most part, we're dealing with people who are just going about their lives and doing jobs. And it's brilliantly done. Every single thing that this artist does seems to be done deliberately with a purpose in mind, and it all works brilliantly. They also have a nice style of things, which I really quite like, to do with page layouts. I was talking last time I read a Behemoth one about the fact that they did 9-panel grids, but they removed lines to expand out certain things. There's another way you can do that. This is not 9, this is a 12-panel. But if you look at the top bit there, those first 3 panels are actually the same bit of artwork. Effectively, they're just playing with different changes in lighting, but in a strip club, I imagine, the lighting may flash and move around a little bit, so you can, as showing like a very quick change in time, have different lighting, but the same thing goes on. This happens a few times throughout the comic book, and I absolutely love it. I'll see if I can find my absolute favourite bit here. That set of panels there, mostly it's one image. The bottom bit with the hand there held almost into a fist, very different, but shows that it isn't all the same thing. And that bit in the center bottom there, which is actually a flashback to when this guy had superpowers or was enhanced by mechanical contrivances, which cause him daily pain. It means he has to take painkillers. But that little use of the flashback within is absolutely brilliant. If you scroll further down on the page, you get to see that the hands there match in with what's going on at the top of it, but that is a completely different, showing the effects of it in the present day. Brilliant use of paneling to show time and show flashback. It's genuinely great. The story is also really quite cool. It talks about loss. It talks about a sense of growing old with your best days behind you. It's also about trauma and PTSD and the way heroes are treated. There is lots of very unsubtle references to being soldiers and how they are remembered and how they're treated, how they're looked down on, regardless of past glories, regardless of they were doing what they were told and doing what was supposedly be for the greater good. If they're no longer useful, they're cast aside. It's hard to read this without seeing some kind of contemporary catch on with what's going on with soldiery at the moment. We are talking about PTSD and living with trauma and how these people get through their daily lives. I've said before, genre fiction works best when it's talking about something else, and this clearly is, and it's doing it in a really interesting way. I could talk more about the dialogue, but I realize I'm at the 5-minute mark. I spent far too long talking about the artwork, but honestly, it is brilliantly put together comic book. Check it out and make your own decisions on the dialogue. That's it from me for this week. I'll be back next week. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.